A little bit of folk music. Hello everyone, welcome back. Croeso, Britain's Hidden History. It's only number episode 97. They say would never last. Fire away, Arnie B. Some traditional Welsh music. Andrew Whelan first on tonight. Oh, hang on a second. Let's get the mic a bit nearer my mouth. Not everyone wants to hear the violin is what everyone wants to listen to. Hang on. Just throw this in front of him, give it a go on. So there we go. Good evening, Gary Taylor. Hope you're feeling better. I did mean to give you a call during the week. I do apologise. I'm very pleased to see Marchell on. Because Marchell refuses to do British summertime. So I sent a little message. I'm afraid to miss it by an hour. Hello, Steve Frankham. Hello, everyone. So since we're Arnie a second. Very good, Arnie B. What was that one called? Trossachgarrig. Was it Under the Stones? Over the Stones. There we go. Trossachgarrig. Very good. Brilliant. You have a bit of Welsh language. Oh man, it's so exciting tonight. That's funny, by the way. That the chat's very, very good tonight. Good work. Gary Taylor always great with the one-liners. Marcella said she's on GMT. And Gary said, I think it's a misspelling of predictive text. That should read G and T. And Marcel, G and T o'clock is always the best time. Right, how are we doing? Yep, loads of people coming on board. Right, let's give a chance to chat on. Hello, Meg. Hello, Linda. Hello, Steve Frankham. Brilliant. Right, a new name for me there. What if? Noswar das buenas noches, guten Abend, good evening. Now we got them all in there. We got 3-4 languages. Yeah, well done, yes. Noswith da. Sorry, my brain's a bit scrambled. I've been a bit... just to give a background, this was a big week, I was going to say. It's Mothering Sunday in Britain. I don't know if it is in all parts of the world. I think it's different days. And I was going to say, this big thing, I say a big thank you to my good wife, Angela, mother of my children, and saying how Angela does everything so much in the house, keeps the whole thing running. And I was going to say, it's great, couldn't do it without it. And then, of course, this week, poor Angie hasn't been too well the last few days and has stayed in bed. And I have been doing everything. So today, can you hear me all right? Oh, sorry, yes, they can have... So the food's all over the place. I've tried my best. I was up very early because we had early kick-off with the rugby and the clocks went forward. So breakfast and lunches and dinners. And oh, my goodness. So, but the show, and this week's show, I was going to save... It's so exciting, the couple of topics coming up. I really did consider saving them for the 100th show, just because it's so exciting. I was so excited about it. It was so in my mind. I couldn't wait that long. So we got. I gotta say, so I'm exploding with excitement. The work Steve Willits has done. I don't think Steve's on live at the moment. He usually has to catch up. He works unusual hours and things. Is just staggering. I mean, I'll give a taste of it this week, and it'll tie in with this. You'll watch this. It's what he's showing is you can follow, not the entire. You can find the entire Babylonian Zodiac on the Welsh, South Wales, particularly landscape. And I've also got an interesting idea why they did this. And this is why I was going to bring Angie in, because she came up with an idea of why they did it. I chatting the other evening about this. It's very profound, all right? But I'm going to save that one. And what I've also got then is the whole thing about how the whole story of Gilgamesh, which we will be talking about tonight, and give a little bit of my details. The whole story of Gilgamesh can be seen very clearly and followed, well, as it turns out, a couple of miles from my house. I can just about see the start of the journey out the window, which mind-blowing. And when you see all the graphics and everything else, the people say it blows your mind. I was really, I could hardly breathe. Steve came around during the week and went through it. It's so exciting. And there's so many things progressing on the Britain's Hidden History project. So many people are just charging forward. I really think this is going to be the big year. Because what I didn't mention last week, of course, I was going to get back to that debate about the Facebook thing and all this kind of stuff, and how no matter how much evidence you bring forward and things outside the triangles and stuff, you're not going to move a lot of people. But things will move anyway. And what I was going to talk about, I was going to mention it very briefly now, is something called lag. L-A-G, lag. It's very simple lag. If you go through all the historical developments, in almost, not just British history, almost every aspect of research, quite often with sciences, particularly languages, history of languages, what you tend to happen, and in science, is when there's a new breakthrough and the subject has moved, you get this huge lag, and it could be another 40, 50 years before the academic establishment is forced. They can't deny it anymore, And that's the point I meant to add on last time. So if you remember last week, we spoke about the poor guy in Spain who found the paintings on the caves, which now those caves extend all around France and all over the place. One of the biggest systems in the world. It's like a World Heritage Site. It's absolutely brilliant. Like Hugh Evans says there, inertia. You've got to get things moving. And they had a conference. Bizarrely, he found these paintings on the ceilings and got a local artist to reproduce them. And they had a conference where they declared them to be fakes, forgeries, and the whole site to just not be authentic. And as Alan Wilson puts it in King Arthur Conspiracy, that book's almost good to go to printers, by the way, is that they had the incredible advantage of never having been to the site or never having looked at the site, and they declared it. And they kept going with that. They kept going for another 30, 40 years, long after the poor bloke who did all the hard work had died. And finally, because they kept finding these cave paintings all over the place, and they'd say, oh yeah, of course they are genuine. So it will happen eventually. There's one of my favourite quotes, which is, it's a little bit depressing. It's from Max Planck, who was a sort of around the time of Einstein. We're talking early 20th century. So I think this quote probably comes from around 1920s maybe, or around about the time of the First World War. And he said his experience is that academics never actually, no academics ever change their position. You just have to wait for them to die off and a new, better informed generation to come through. But anyway, that's the thing. So tonight we're going to this thing now. This is going to be very interesting because I have been reading this book, which I've enjoyed so much. I'm going to sound like such a blinking geek, but I've really had so much fun with a book as this one. The Celts Origins, Myths and Inventions by John Collis. I have mentioned this book before. The reason I got a copy of this, and I think if you're quick, quite often I recommend a book on here, they disappear and become very expensive. But I think in this case, there are plenty available. It's only about £5. Oh, which reminds me, someone sent a message, or tried to send a message to Lee Pennington last week, asking where to get a copy of, remember the book I was showing, Jim Michael's book, showing the drawings, the cave paintings in America, and it's just a brilliant book. It ties in with the work that Wilson and Blackett did, sort of from the other side, if you like, and just takes on to the next level. And he's just a great bloke. It's a brilliant small book, everything in it. So, but the message went astray. So please try again. Drop me a message, drop me an email. I can forward it to Lee. I think this is Jim's widow who handles the book sales, so it's all those sales are appreciated. And it's great. I just want to help. If it wasn't available, I was going to print it. It's just got to be out there. It's very important. So I've just thrown myself off a line. But Hugh Evans' star map in Gwynedd is going to come into this as well. One of which is, I wonder if Hugh remembers in his book, which is Origin of the Zodiac. I should be holding up a copy. Maybe remember Mynydd Rhyw Saeson. I wonder if Hugh remembers that. I'm sure Hugh does. Yes. Oh, wow, Arnie, that was amazing. That was unprompted. There we are, look. There we are, see? You'd be thrown out of the rugby front row union, Arnie, for that book. There they are available from this website. Also, if you look in the links, you see links to Hugh's own YouTube channel, and you can hear more videos and this playlist there. Yeah, Michelle's loving your book, Hugh. Yeah, I'm loving it as well. So excuse me, a little sip of tea. Right, okay, where am I going to start tonight? Oh, yeah, then the other thing's happening. So the King Arthur conspiracy, if you want to, the English Hill, Rue Saison. That's what I've always thought, and that's what I've always told people. And there's Rue Saison, which is, I can see it. I can almost see it right now. I can almost turn the camera around, but the houses are in the way slightly. If I just went about 50 yards, you can see it. But it might not be English Hill, because you got to look at Saison, Saison, which is the usual spelling of English. I think it's got a dual meaning, by the way. I think it does apply to the English as well, and there was a battle there, and there's a hill fort, and the Saxons, the Sais, could well have been killed there, but that might not be the meaning of it. There's a much deeper meaning than a lot of these things. All right, okay, so the other one I do is the musical. Arthur the musical. I'm really hoping, I haven't seen Johnny Nigma on here for a couple of weeks, so I'll give him a call. He's the mayor of Brecon. That might be one place to do it. And there's one thing I want to talk about. I think we've reached this stage now where there's lots of people doing different research. Lots of us have got to know each other just through, sometimes, why am I pointing over there? You can't see what I'm pointing at. Anyway, the comments, wherever they are. And that's all we know of each other, just a name on a comic board. And maybe you've seen someone interviewed on my channel or something like that. And I think it's reached the stage we really need to have some sort of, I don't like the word conference because it sounds very grand, a get-together. Now, first of all, I'm going to arrange, hopefully in June, something in Newcastle for Alan Wilson's 90th birthday. So that's going to be coming up. So I need to get a date in the diary so you can at least pencil off the date, even if we haven't got the details. And I think that'll be more of a lunch type thing. I don't know how much. I'm going to see Alan in a few weeks when the new King Arthur conspiracy comes out. See Aaron and Balham and just check the health and all that. Because he's been isolated for a couple of years now, apart from when I go up there. It's really worrying. So I hope he hasn't gone downhill too much. Usually when I'm there a few days and I keep talking to him, I'm good at doing that, and asking him questions, his head clicks back into gear. So I haven't given up on him at all. Right, so we want to do that kind of thing. And then what we want to do then is, Newcastle's a long way for most people. I know if you live in Newcastle, it's no distance at all, is it? But I get a feeling most people are more in the south or maybe South Wales. So what I really want to do is organise or someone else can organise it. It doesn't have to be me. I'm very happy. I've got plenty on my plate to have a little 3-day get-together. Well, not 3 days. So we'll have meet Friday afternoon, Friday evening, because people can travel from wherever it is. And we have a chance to socialise, a couple of beers perhaps, chat. I thought maybe a quiz would be fun, that kind of thing. So it's a couple of icebreakers, maybe a couple of games, party games, just silly things. And then Saturday, we could have different people speaking. I mean, I'll probably do a bit, but I mean, you see plenty of me on here, but some of the other people as well. And break up into groups maybe, or a chance to chat. I like to keep things quite informal. And then Saturday evening, we could do the musical. And I'm thinking of making it, because progress is being made with sort of 4 songs written, the 5th one more or less done. The synopsis is done. It's going to happen, all right, this musical. And it's not getting in the way of the books or anything. It's what I do at the end of the evening, unwind. And I get, the Alwen comes in, the inspiration. You write a couple of songs. And it all takes time. It's put into chords and all that. But anyway, I'll show you one of those in a minute in the show before I lose my voice. So Saturday evening will be the show, and then Sunday morning we do a few things on Sunday. People are getting ready to go back home. So a weekend event like that, all right? So I'm looking for venues, and put in the comments, please, so I get a feel for who would come and where would suit them. Because I like Brecon, but it's not the easiest place to get to. I mean, there's a train station there and everything. It depends where everyone's coming from. And I reckon we get 100, 200 people easily, okay? Yes, I will be singing it, Linda. Yes, I know. But it's my proper singing voice now, not my messing about voice. Put a bit of pressure on myself. And I have to sing as if I am a young female. The bride of Arthur, that I'm going to do today. I'll do a Guinevere song. So I can feel my voice tightening up already. And it's not easy for me to sing female parts. Anyway, right, okay, so let's just get a couple of things out of the way. I got a couple of random ones on here. Hang on, Slideshow. All right, so here we go. Yeah, just run through the front page a second. Yeah, the world's first language. There's this constant battle. I think we're going to shatter something really, really important. Reading this book, the Celts. Oh, just to explain again, John Collis is mentioned by Wilson and Blackett because he's one of he's an archaeologist, really. Archaeologist. He's a professor, university professor, and he raised the issue back in 1999 that neither the British or the Irish are Celtic. Nothing to do with Celts. They're somewhere else. Which got him into a world of pain. And he's written this book, which more recent, I think it's only a few years ago, 2017, I think, roughly. Hang on. Where he's kind of battered it a little bit. I mean, it's older than I thought, actually, 2003. But yeah, I'd love to meet John Collis, have an interview with him. It would be fantastic. I loved the book. It's been brilliant. And with all the research you've been doing, the Britain's History Group, and all the other things that come up, suddenly this book clicks. Not for the reasons he thinks, by the way. This is the thing. It's, hang on, just make sure I mention that as well. I don't normally have notes or anything, but there's the bits I want to mention all over the book. If I'd had more time, I would have picked out the bits I wanted and put them on the PowerPoint slides. Because I've been tied up with family things, doing life and stuff today. Oh, hang on. Did I just press something on? We're okay, we? There's one more thing on here. Right, okay, so we're going to go through that. Yes, that's the one thing I wanted to see. Right, hang on. 102. Sorry, excuse me. I've done most of it. Got quite a lot ready. Right, okay. So we go on to that. Yeah, song. Yeah, here we go. Hang on. I can't read the comments a bit. This is a church in Suffolk. I put this in. I was going to say more about it, but we've got so much. I'm just going to rush through. Came up on Facebook. Oh, and where's the place? Ickner, I think it's called. So it's out in Suffolk. So if you know about this church, it's just one of these things which I found quite interesting. And I was going to talk more about this, but we've done dating in stones and that before, and I've got so much, we're going to have to just whiz through it. Anyway, here's the official notice board, okay? And what's fascinating about this, I was making a joke with someone, if it's not Roman, then you have to jump to Saxon. If you are new to this before, just hold with it, it will start to come together. The basic thing is we've got this amazing, rich history. It's not just Britain where this has happened, but it's been hidden for political reasons. And you can see it happening all the time. Like, we live in really interesting times right now where you can see history being reframed, to be polite, or rewritten in front of our very eyes. I'm not here to judge that, or whether it's better or worse, but nobody can deny that the history in our history books now is being changed before our very eyes. And a lot of people are very upset and trying to protect the old version. A lot of people think the new version's better. That's for other discussions, other channels. What this channel is about, this has happened before. Most noticeably, around about 1700, which is going to be and tonight they got the background. This book is going to be the background to get to that. Anyways, here's a good example here. This is supposed to be a Saxon cross. What's Saxon about it? Well, this bit for a start on the top was missing. That's not actually there. That's been smashed off. We're talking about this part, and you can see the decoration, which to me looks, dare I use the word, a bit Celtic, but it's that kind of British style, and it could be very ancient. But what, and the mythical beast, we've got the dragon, we've got all the British hallmarks for this to be British, all right? But of course it can't be, you see, it has to be, if it can't be Roman, it's got to be something else. So it's been pushed, it's been pushed right back to make it a lot later, 9th, 10th century. Whereas if it's British, it would be 5th, 6th century, or maybe earlier. Right, so if you look here, right, it's decorated with Anglo-Saxon interlaced patterns. Well, okay. And a mythical beast. All those could be British. In fact, I would say they are. But anyway, let's have a look. Dating from the late 800s to early 900s, which it has to do because otherwise it can't be Anglo-Saxon, you see. There's no way of dating stone. And I've had a quiz with a few of the people involved with this. There's nothing to back up this 8 to 900s apart from the usual thing of the tail wags the dog. You get your story, you make the evidence fit it. Now, there's one bit on here I really want to talk about. Okay. Right, a large piece of stone built into the base of the church tower. Have a think about that. Because to me, alarm bells just went bing. Why is a large... That was a Sunday evening. People don't want to think. But I'm going to ask a lot of questions tonight to make you think. A large piece of stone built into the base of the church tower. Why would you do that? That's desecration. You're taking an ancient religious symbol, very precious and important. You smash the top off, and you've used the rest as part of the basic building of your church tower. Now, use a bit of critical thinking here. Do you think you are likely to, that's a form of iconoclasm, where you destroy symbols? Do you really think an Anglo-Saxon is going to destroy an Anglo-Saxon religious symbol, smash it and put it in part of the building? Or is it more likely they're going to take one of their enemies' religious symbols and smash that and put it in the bottom of the building? To me, that was a huge, huge clue. The fact this is being used for building materials would say to me, almost certainly it's not venerated by the Anglo-Saxons. Why would you do that? Could anyone give me any reason why you destroy one of your own works of art? I can't think of any. So why is there no mention anywhere? As it says here, see, this is all that survives of the cross. The reconstruction, see, the reconstruction shows how it may have looked when newly made and painted. So this is purely artistic imagination. They don't have that at all. It could just as easily be the old, what they call a Celtic cross. So there you go. So this is the kind of thing you're up against all the time. All right. Yeah, thank you to this on the comment from last week. I put a video up during the week. I don't know if you saw it. There's again another one about the Romans. Please watch it if you haven't already. And Lego, Rob, my good mate Rob. It is a strange thing to believe that during 400 years, which is the supposed time of the Roman occupation of Britain, obviously it's not that long, but that's the official line, as Rob's mentioning. During the 400 years, the Romans never married a Briton.
Oh, Dad.
Yeah?
$20 donation.
A $20 donation? My goodness, thank you very much. And who's that, Arnie?
Laurie Noseworthy.
Thank you, Laurie. You are very, very generous of you. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Wow. Didn't know we had a $20 button. Thank you. If you want to be a member, you can just join the YouTube. Just click on the Join Now button and become a member. If everyone puts a couple of quid a month, they not really keep this thing going. Because money is getting a little bit tight. We're okay. I'm not begging or anything, but there's no income from doing this. Right. So anyway, so no one had any British children, and also there's Patreon. If you want to do that, that'd be great. Thank you. So fought for the island or thought themselves as British, 400 years. Yeah. So how long are you going to be here? I mean, the current I get myself deep water, but the current immigration status. Right, my wife. Well, not from Britain. But she's now naturalised and got a British citizenship and everything. So are our children not British? You know, at what point do they become British, even if they were Roman? And then in 410, they march out as one people. Yeah, like all the Romans just say, right, we're off. It's ridiculous. Constantine was British, Magnus Maximus, or Mascon Ledig, Empress Helen, Claudius, Bonassus. Wow, hang on, that's the 180s. How many emperors are Roman? Exactly. So thank you very much for that. Go on to that again. Oh, Arthur the Musical. Right. I can't believe this. My throat's really tightened up. I've been singing great the last couple of days. And I'm going to make a mess of it now because sorry, press the wrong button. As you might hear, my throat is tightening up. Oh, no. Right, we're going to give it a go, though. Now, this is a song for... I know, my song is not great, and my guitar playing is not great, and it's quite tricky, some of this. So please don't judge the whole musical and everything on this. Right, I just want to give you a little bit of background. The musical itself is about a young King Arthur, right? It's the start of his... I'm going to... Right, where's the pick? There we go. Use a pick. I always use a pick for this one. I am going to. Right, hope you can hear me. People, yes, a chance to make a cup of tea, run out. Yeah, you come back in again. Right, so what we're doing here is give a little bit of background, okay? The start of the story is a young Arthur. So he's just a young boy. He's playing. He's discovering how... Sorry, the window's open. That might be why I'm getting a sore throat. Oh, I've dropped the pick now.
Oh, what's happened?
Oh no, I've dropped the Spectrum thing.
Oh no.
It's disappeared out the window, right? Yeah, great. Alright, I have to use my fingers. Alright, so just give you some background on this musical, because I do want people to get involved. No stairways, yeah, no stairways allowed. Yeah, I know that reference. And do you take cash? Right, so it's the young Arthur, at the beginning of the play. Well, the first scene is the funeral of Tudrig, a bit like in Arthur Walking by Wilson and Blackett. And there's a song for that, for the sort of funeral procession and everything about what's happening there. Then we go to young Arthur, and we find out about where the sword and the stone story comes from, how that comes in. We come back and forth. But anyway, when he's very young, he has to marry Guinevere, and no one thinks. So it's a bit like me being a bit politically correct here. So it's a woman's song. This is Guinevere's song, all right? So you've got to imagine it's a young female. So obviously I can't sing like a young female very well. But I'll sing it a bit gently. You wouldn't want to be the queen. It's every little girl's dream to be the mother of his princes. But what about me? Is this my life to be? Just to be a wife to he, to be the mother of his princes. But what about me? I wanna follow my heart. Oops, sorry. Heart. I wanna follow my dreams, not to do just what men say. There must be another way. Is he the man that I must take, and any other love forsake? Am I free to take another? Or am I set to be a mother? I wanna follow my heart, I wanna follow my dreams, not to do just what men say. I will find another way. Hey, there you go. Wasn't too bad, was it? So you imagine that with a woo! Yeah, imagine that with a proper singer and everything. Okay, so that was the story then about Guinevere. Okay, because we got a little bit of intrigue in there. Cause you got the Guinevere thing, and you got the Lancelot character who's Guggen, and you will see that and all be part of the musical. Okay, which will be Arthur the musical. Just be bringing out all his story from the history and everything. So I hope you enjoy that. Right, and we should do that soon. So looking for casting soon. All right, okay on that one. Okay, let's crack on with the main thing there. Hang on a second. Ba ba da ba ba da ba. You'll be singing that all night now. Do 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 do. Right, okay, so here we go. This is the book here, The Celts Origins, Myths and Inventions. And for those asking what's going on, yeah, this is Britain's Hidden History Project. There's a whole lot of things going on. This is part of it. I'm going to promote the message, get out there. And the music will be part of that, okay? Right, and a get-together, which you want to do. So please leave your comments where you think we might do this and how we're going to do this, okay? Right, so here we go. Now, the first thing we're going to look at, we're going to go to the ancient languages. Now, I've been making this challenge now for probably 3 years. I know Wilson and Blackett have written about it. Other people have mentioned it. Is that there is no ancient reference to the Britons or British or Irish being Celtic. All right, I keep putting this challenge out there, keep saying, go on, you find the reference, you find the reference, you find the reference. There aren't any. Okay? The nearest thing you've got is one person on who's trying to twist things a bit, where you've got one Roman at one point who's a bit slack with mixing up the terms Celts and Gauls. And then you've got another situation where Caesar mentions that some Belgians have come over from the mainland into southeast England. Might go on the other way as well, but we're going to go with that for now. And therefore, because the Belgae are Gauls, that makes them Celts, which is just a ridiculous, convoluted way of doing it, especially as hundreds of years between the two different quotes. But anyway, regardless of that, it's only a tiny bit, the bottom corner anyway, and they could have gone either way. All right. Now, one of the things you will notice in here, and there's got a couple of quotes in here, which is great, because I'll jump to the back of the book for a second. Even in here, you'll find in the summary, he makes it very clear. Hang on a second. Make sure I get the page numbers. He also says the same thing, which is quite a relief reading this book, that there are no ancient references to the Britons being Celtic at all. There aren't any. So this is one of the big problems. Another big problem we got then is how the language links and how this has come to, how we got to this position, all right? So, hang on a second. As you can see, it's all the way through the book, the whole thing. All right, and what we're going to do, we're going to go through how the idea came about that the Celts were in Britain. Where's it come from? Now, I usually talk about it all starting with Edward Lloyd doing his language links in 1707. But that's not quite correct. I found in here, does anyone recognise this chap? He looks a bit like him. He looks a bit Welsh, but actually he's a Breton, which is quite significant in this, okay? So he's a Breton in France. I'll pop his name up. Give me a chance to type in his name. Have a go. Paul Epezron, okay? Now, Paul Epezron is a very interesting character who I'm very glad I've now read about. Now, I'll just read something from the book here. He is arguably the most influential figure in the development of the modern concept of the Celts. And it really leaps off at you suddenly, this does, okay? He is the abbot of La Charlemoy Monastery in Paris. So his major paper, which is important, is called L'Antiquité de la Nation de la Langue Celtique, and is quickly translated into English as the Antiquity of Nations, more particularly of the Celtae or Gauls. So he got this ball rolling. Now his theory was, because obviously we got this language, this Breton language, which is different to the rest of France. Now when we go through the work we're doing with the history group, we know that the reason for this, and the reason it's called Breton, is because it's from the Britons, and it's called Brittany because of the Britons, because there was an invasion in the 280s, and then you got the big invasion in the 380s, where the British language is taken there, colonised. The old stories talk about they cut all the tongues out of the mouths of the women they married, so that they would only pass on the Briton tongue, the British tongue. So that was the theory there. But Epezron wasn't aware of that, or he chose not to be aware of it. Doesn't really matter. His theory was that Breton was an ancient language that the whole of France spoke at one point. And his theory was, as the Romans encroached all the way up, we were just left with this little pocket hanging on to the old ancient language. But where it gets interesting is that his research and everything was he managed to work out that remarkably this was the oldest language. This is the original language, okay? I'll read a little bit more of this just to give you an idea, because his big thing was that people are defined by their languages, and this really influenced Edward Lloyd and the whole movement then, this whole idea of everyone's being Celts, okay? So he firmly claimed that this Celtic language, which is the Breton, sorry, this is Amorica, is the old term for that part, okay, for Brittany. So he further claimed this Celtic language is one of the original languages spoken at the time of the Tower of Babel. He noted that in Greek, German and Latin there were many words similar to those in Breton, and thus betrayed periods when Celtic had been in close contact with those languages. Now you've got to hang on to these thoughts, because we're going to explain how they're linked. All the information, all the evidence is here. They've had it. They've missed the point. They've missed the connection. whether... Oh, what happened there? Suddenly... sorry about that. Must have pressed something with a book by accident. All right, okay. So what he was trying to do there, we all tied in then to this whole idea of biblical origins. Does everyone come from the Bible? Was that in the Middle East? Did they all move out? Now, that whole side of things, we're turning on its head a bit, and we'll see that again later today at the end of the presentation. We come into where these languages come from, all right? So, okay, so what he wants to say here now, so his major aim was to trace the Celts and their ancestors from the time of the Tower of Babel to the ancient Celts. Like many of his contemporaries, he saw their origin in the Gomerians, which is the descendants of Gomer, who then developed into the Cimmerians and Cimbri, the ones in Denmark, and finally the Celtic. The similarities which he could see with other languages such as Greek and Latin, he interpreted as traces of periods when the Celts were overlords of those nations, in the period when they were gradually moving westward. So the Titans of Greek mythology were simply a mythological memory of the Celtic-speaking kings, while Saturn and Neptune, Celtic kings of the Italians, later became part of the Roman pantheon. Right, fanciful though the historical reconstruction may seem, it did not seem outrageous to Pearson's contemporaries. Indeed, it was in the mainstream of thought about the origins of nations and languages until the end of the 18th century. The English translation had an enormous impact on Edward Lloyd and Henry Rowlands. Pearson had recognised the similarities between Welsh and Breton, and so claimed that the ancient British population had reached Britain via Celtic Gaul. Thus, the Welsh too were Celts. He makes no mention of the Irish or of Scots Gaelic, but from this time onward, the Welsh were considered to be of Celtic descent, and Celts were defined by the language they spoke. So actually, it's before Edward Lloyd, who I wasn't aware of, Paul Epezron. All right, so that's an interesting one. So right, how do we go now with... I love his chubby face on that. It'll be memorised like that on a statue, isn't it? But there you go. I think he looks a little bit similar, doesn't he? He's got the similar sort of big cheeks. Anyway, here we go. So that's Edward Lloyd, of course, okay? Very, very famous and important historian in Welsh history and British history, and the whole Celtic thing. And the start, if you look at the dates underneath, the tragedy was he died in 1709, and I think that's significant because, as you'll see in a second, Edward Lloyd did the research to show that the Welsh people, he was doing the work on tracing the ancient languages. He saw these links with Breton. He saw that there was a relationship, although very different, with Welsh, Irish, Cornish, Manx, Breton, all these what became called Celtic languages. And he was in regular correspondence with these other people, although we did get to see Pearson and never actually got to meet him, which is all very strange. But anyway, tragically, his work was published round about 1707, round about the time when the Hanoverians took the throne, which is the key. We had the big coup in 1688, and the Glorious Revolution, as the city like to call it, when these sort of puppet kings are put in. And as 1707, the Hanoverians came in, and it's just after then that he died. And I think what's happened then, as you'll see, and amazingly, this guy John Collis is still doing it. He's still twisting his work. I know, there's loads of information in here, but the conclusions, not many of them I actually share with this writer, okay? So get a little bit rough in places. So he showed that there was a connection between those languages we call Celtic languages, and therefore, what other people I think have implied is therefore he decided that the language must have come from Europe. But I haven't read his work closely, but looking at this analysis and what Pearson did, it doesn't seem he said that at all. It's quite different. All right, and we'll come on to something. So I'll just give you a little quick one on him there. He was the curator of the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. He was involved in all this kind of stuff. He's doing Camden's Britannia. Oh, because Camden was coming along, but I can't cover everything in one night. And he got Edward Gibson. All these people around that time were painting this picture. They had to get rid of British history. They had very unpopular Germanic kings on the throne. Didn't even speak English, never mind Welsh or something. revolution was in the air. You had people like Thomas Paine coming along a bit later. You had this general idea of republicanism. There's going to be big support for Napoleon. This is rough times. Royal families were being executed. And one of the ways to stop that is to remove the sense of identity and history and create this new idea whereby you're just primitive Celts. You just drifted over from Europe. You're just barbarians. Nothing to worry about here. And the English, you are Germanic conquerors, overlords. All of that is pretty much invented round about the time with this guy. So when Edward Lloyd's work came along, it was perfect timing because they could seize upon that, because you have to fill it with something. If you get rid of the British history, the stuff that we say has been hidden and look at in this group, if you get rid of all the migrations and the great kingdoms and the civilizations, the links back to Troy, all these things, if you throw them all out, you've got to replace it with something. And that's this barbarian drift. And they're bringing the Celtic languages with them. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, because why is there no trace at all across Eastern or Central Europe of this language to show where they came from? So this is when you get the sort of books, Origine Celtica, where they try and use words to invent a path. But I think that might come into our good friends, the Lloyds, the English, which we'll come back to. I think they're back in the running on this. It's going to be a bit weird. And I bet people didn't expect me to say that. Anyway, so he was, he travelled around putting his Celtic thing together. I was going to type this letter in. Did I put the first line in? No, I didn't. Okay. Now, this is, what we got here is correspondence between the letters. Oh yeah, the first question. Here we go. Right. Here's a question. One of the things I'm also trying to do with this, these chats we have is break the jargon, because a lot of long fancy words and terms and jargon get used, and if you're not aware of the jargon, you immediately put you on the defensive, and you don't say, well, what's that? Why is that? Which you should do, all right? I try and do it. It doesn't make you look stupid, okay? Especially when you find out why and what's behind some of these names and jargons. They're not particularly scientific at all, okay? Right, so you've got, just to explain there, one of the things you introduce, the idea is you've got P Celtic and C Celtic, all right? I need to see the comments here. Can you have a look, Arnie? See if anyone spots why it's P Celtic and C Celtic. See if anyone knows. I think it's one of those things. It sounds quite flash, doesn't it? Well, what it came down to, he recognised that in Irish, or Gaelic, the word for son of or descendant is mac, M-A-C, and in Welsh is map, M-A-P. So one lot of the C lot and one lot of the P lot. It's as simple as that, apparently. Bizarre, isn't it? It sounds so fancy. And he further conjectures the difference might be chronological. We'll come all back to the chronology, the times, okay? Don't worry about all that. So you've got C Celts, he labelled as Goidels, G-O-I-D-E-L. And he assumed an Iberian origin, while the P Celts, the ones saying map, so that's the Welsh ones, or Britons, came from Gaul. The division between P and Q Celtic and his nomenclature was picked up again in the 19th century when the full importance of his pioneering work was fully recognised. Now this is another weird thing. I want you to listen to this. Remember this as well, okay? Because it will come up later. Right. He wrote various letters to people. He surprisingly states that the major differences between Welsh and Irish were because Irish was derived from Greek and Welsh from Latin. Bizarre. Presumably a reflection of the stories of Brutus and Cathalos. Brutus still appears in the 1696 version of Camden's Britannia. There's a sort of inadvertent mention there that these things were considered history until they got thrown out, okay, at that point. So the Irish got a bit of Old Latic, but the letter I want to talk about is this one. And see how you interpret this, and we'll compare it with how our scholar here, Mr. Collis, Professor Collis, I think, interprets it. So this is the letter there. So what he's done now, he's referring to Epezron, because what he's showing there is Epezron has shown that the Breton language is very ancient, and because it's the same language as the Welsh language, Welsh must also be very ancient. Well, sorry, I'm guiding the witness. Let's see what he says. One Abbot Epezron, and this is his letter, quoting, an Amoric Briton, so it's a Breton from Brittany, has lately published his, I won't say that long name again, wherein he had infinitely outdone all our countrymen as to national zeal. He proves that they and we are the only nations in the world that have the honour to have preserved the language of Jupiter and Saturn, whom he shows to have been princes of the Titans, and progenitors of the Gauls, and to have had an empire from the Euphrates to Cape Finisterre in ye time of Abraham. Alright? Now, I don't think you can make that any clearer. He's talking about the great antiquity of the Welsh and Breton language. I don't see how else he could... you wouldn't think how he could change the meaning of this, but you can. Listen to this a second now, okay? So what he says there, wherein he had infinitely outdone all our countrymen as to national zeal. This is how our friend Mr. Collis deals with that. So contrary to Simon James, writing in 1999, who takes this as evidence that Lloyd's statement was reflecting Welsh nationalism, I would read it the reverse, and that Lloyd simply considered himself an educated Oxford scholar, a role in which one's nationality was of little importance, and was rather making an ironic statement about nationalism. Is that just me, or does that seem bonkers? Oh, can you say that? Can you try and get the comments up to here, someone? Can you try and get the screen up to here so I can see the comments there? Because actually, I can have a look myself. It's all right. No, it's okay. I can have a look from here. I don't need to go back onto them. Oh yeah, I did have the. There we go. Sorry, I'm not really with it today. So it's been a very long day. There you go. So where he had infinitely outdone all our countrymen as to national zeal. All right, but apparently that doesn't mean a countryman from that point of view. Okay, right. You go on to the Irish in a second, as you see. Right. Okay, I need to move along before the time moves on from us. It just seems bizarre to me now that where it becomes important for us, of course, is that let's just move aside a second from the idea of why are Bretons and Britons speaking the same language, or Welsh and Breton so similar. Let's just go with they are, and this Breton Gaelic is the ancient language, alright? We'll move on from there a second. So what we're going to talk about is now the Irish language slightly, because it does all tie together. And here's one book here called the Irish Book of Invasions, which is important. It's a very old book, alright? I'm just going to... what I'm going to do is just jump up slightly a second. Hang on, I'll put all these things together. Okay, right, okay. Now, first of all, just on Wiki, there's hardly anything about this guy. Paul Epezron, not even a picture. So he traced Welsh and Breton origins of the Celts to ancient writers, traced it all the way back. Epezron believed the Welsh language came from a mother tongue called Celtic, a language that was only a theory to other authors. Epezron's fairly unscientific book was popular and reprinted into the early 19th century. Alright, this is the Book of Leinster. I know, it's a minefield trying to pronounce Gaelic. Leba Gabala Aaron, something like that. The History of the Taking of Ireland. The Book of Invasions. Collection of poems and prose narratives in the Irish language. Sort of Gaelic, alright? So this is the insular Celtic branch of the... Come on. The Indo-European language family. Irish is indigenous to the island of Ireland and was the population's first language until the late 18th century. So it's indigenous, but it's come from Europe. There we go. Right, so okay, so what we're talking about here is this language here comes in quite important. Right, now the person I want to look for, see if he's on here as well, is James Parsons, who I hadn't heard of before. James Parsons. Irish, where are you? Yeah, strange, isn't he? See? No, I don't think he's there, is he? No, he's very important, he should be. Okay. Right, so what he did, he was very interested in the Irish side of things. He learned both Irish and Welsh. And he was struck by their close affinity and investigated their origins. And this is important. We're going to come back to this in a second. His basic premise was that they represented the language spoken, we're back to these biblical links again, okay? Descendants of Japhet, specifically Magog and Gomer. So he came up, so anyone following from Magog is called a Magogian or a Magogian. And if you follow Gomer, the Irish, the Welsh, you're a Gomerian. So all these fancy looking names, they just made up really. So he laid great emphasis on the Irish written tradition as found in the Book of Invasions, which you just saw there, and Irish sourcage, which he considered the tradition introduced by the first inhabitants of Ireland, and independent of the Bible and the classical sources. So he's looking for an Armenian source of where he comes from. Now, what I want to try and get round to is that we have this false battle. It's one of these false dichotomies. Which came first, Welsh or Irish? Because I think what we find more and more as we go through this, both stories, the Irish origin stories, just to cover them briefly, they claim an origin all the way back to the Tigris or the Tigris, the river very near the Euphrates, which is where the Britons and the Cymry claim their origins from. So if you go back, I don't know, chronology's all over the place, but on the sort of Scaligerian consensus chronology, 4,000-5,000 years, they could well have been the same people. But that's the point where the languages diverged. This is crucial. Once you get this idea, this is the big moment that, I know I'm not the first to think of it, but it suddenly all ties in with this, and it was like a real massive moment. Because once you get that in your mind, then oh, hang on a second, sorry, I have found him. Then you can realise why the languages are close, but you can't, a Welsh speaker can't speak Gaelic or vice versa. They're not that close. And this idea that, I don't know, sometime in the medieval period, the 1200s or 1300s, suddenly these two languages diverged, is just madness, because we've got loads of evidence of written items earlier than that. Lots. As you know, if you're following all the stuff that's come out with the King Arthur conspiracy, you can go all the way back and read in Phrygian, Etruscan, and all this is going to come back into this story as well. And all these things, it goes back a long way. Sorry, here we go. He has turned up on the Dictionary of National Biography. Yeah, not on Wikipedia, but he is on here. Just quick bit of background. So he was, again, 18th century. He's from Barnstaple, Devonshire. There we go. Educated in Dublin, having to move to an island. Excuse me. There we are, you can read all about him. If you want to, I'll try and put the link up. You can just look for him. James Parsons, alright? Doesn't say a lot about him, really, does it? But anyway, it's the language thing was his big thing. Right, now, let's want to get into the crunch now, okay? Sorry about such a background on this. But we have to cover a few bases. Now, this is where the book gets weird, okay? This is where I suddenly have a lot of problems with this book. Because he gives all the answers to showing why these ancient languages aren't Celtic. He says himself they're not Celtic. He gives examples and logic to why they might have a shared origin all the way back. And then just an ancient origin. And it bizarrely just chucks it all in the bin. It's weird. Follow this, right? Okay. Right, so though Lloyd had... So we talking about Indo-European sources for language now, okay? What he doesn't mention much of here is the German people like von Bunsen, the people out in the 1840s came a bit later. Although he does mention the German school a bit later on. So I'm being a little bit unfair. Right, so though Lloyd had some claims to be the founder of comparative linguistics, it was not until more than a century later that his work was properly recognised for its originality, and it became a point of reference for languages which has either disappeared, Cornish, I thought Cornish was still going. There we are, he's writing disappeared here. Or were under pressure. The recognition came with the realization that the features which the many languages in Europe shared in common were due not to original languages influencing one another, but rather that they shared a common origin. This is what it's all about. The whole thing we're talking about is a shared common origin. So when you say, and it even mentions Sanskrit, hang on, I'd like to read from a book normally like this, but Yeah. Right. So symbolically, it's a speech given by Sir William Jones, who, in the 18th century, to the Asiatic Society of London, and published a year after his death. That is taken to mark the new paradigm and the recognition of the common features of a large number of languages in Europe and Western Asia. Jones drew heavily on Sanskrit, which he had studied in India, and for which there is already a long history of academic study by Indian grammarians. Again, it's a shared origin. It's not a case of Welsh came from Sanskrit, or Sanskrit came from Welsh, or Irish came from Welsh, or Latin's a bit more complicated, but Welsh didn't come from Latin, and that's what this is the mad logic. They spell it out to you about the shared origin. All right, so he went through the whole thing, and he says that he suggested that he compared in grammar the Greek and Latin, suggested that Gothic, Old German, Celtic, and possibly Old Persian were also related. Well, that's we're getting back to that sort of syncretic view. All right, so let's get the name of the book right. De Lingua Vetusissima Europa, published in 1686. So this is before Lloyd. He suggested, well, he's alive, but before his work came out, he suggested that Persian, Greek, Gothic, Slavic, Celtic, and the Romance languages were all descended from an original ancient language that had disappeared. And as we've seen, Parsons made a similar claim. That's the word. I've circled it in my book. Because this idea, it's disappeared. This is where it gets annoying, because they don't seem to consider Cymru. And this is where the book goes off. Right, now I'm being a bit lazy here, because I should have drawn this one. But I want to say here, they also give a chronological structure with Latin, for instance, preceding its offspring. So this is the order they got the languages. Now what we would argue in this group is that, and von Bunsen and various other linguists argued, was that the nearest language to this original source is Cymraeg. And this is where you got my book. You can still read hieroglyphics based on Wilson and Blackett's work, of course. You can still read hieroglyphs. Wilson and Blackett's shown you can still read Etruscan. You can read Phrygian. There's these links with Sanskrit. It's an incredibly ancient language. And because it's been stuck on the edge of Europe without any particular immigrations or invasions, the language has stayed consistent and quite pure. Whatever they say, all these different types of medieval this and it, the core words have stayed the same all the way back. Now, can we say a similar thing about Ireland? And I would say there's every chance with Gaelic, yes, we can. And it might even be able to do the same thing with English. So it's not a battle between, like I was trying to say, the Irish and the Welsh. The Irish story then was that we're going back to the time of Moses, so whatever, 1400 BC, 1500 BC. They could have been there since 2000 BC or earlier. That's the kind of era we're looking at, around about sort of 3rd millennium BC. The Irish origin story is that when Moses was leaving with the 10 tribes, which ties in with the Cymru history, they were ordered to follow and pursue and hunt them down, and they refused. And they went the other way. They went west, across North Africa. They spent time in North Africa, across as far as Libya, over to Straits of Gibraltar, Pillars of Hercules, and then they went to Ireland. All right, so it's not a contest here. This is what I'm trying to get away from. It's these false dichotomies again. And like if you disprove one, you prove the other. Or if that one's wrong, this one must be right. It's not like that. These are independent stories. And we're going to start thinking along those lines. All right, so what he's doing there, and this is where... So in this case, we know the pedigree as the mother language is well recorded. They're assuming Latin's the ancient... I don't think Latin is that old, actually. I think Latin's quite a modern language. But that's for another discussion, all right? I think Latin would have come afterwards. But anyway, so what we got? Where the mother tongue... So anyways, so we know the pedigree as the mother language is well recorded. So with the fancy ones they like, the classics. But where the mother language has not survived, for instance, for Celtic, why do you assume it hasn't survived? This is my big question. Why? Why do they assume that? Why do they not just say, well, maybe it's Cymraeg, maybe it's Gaelic, maybe it's both, as it turns out? So I'm just going to and this is going to work very well. But you get an idea of these charts, all right? I should have drawn it out, but my day was swallowed up. So the idea of that is there. You can see the flow of the languages. So according to this, so-called Celtic languages like Gaelic and Cymraeg will have spun off much later down the tree. They'll have come. Where are we? So kind of spinning off from Italian. You get the idea there. Whereas what we would argue is that tree's completely wrong. And he's already described it himself, where languages don't morph into other languages. Sure, languages get taken over and suppressed and kicked out, same way as, Welsh language has been suppressed, and so is Gaelic and Scottish languages, all that kind of thing. But the general rule is that languages don't sort of morph into another language. You got all these crazy ideas then about how different languages influence each other and that. Oh, move it back a bit. Make sure you can see it on the screen. Okay, hang on a second. I could follow the comments while I'm doing this. All right. Oh, so good scholarship. Well, thank you. Let's do some comments, a little bit of feedback. All right, okay, let's do a little bit. So let's get some good comments. Hey, hi, Graham. Hello, Graham. Welsh has no vowels, eh? Not your pronunciation. I've got loads of vowels. I've got 7. I think this is a myth with Hebrew. Oh gosh, there's loads of great comments. Oh wow, a brilliant discussion. Okay, right. Yes, Laurie, I want to speak to you about those Welsh writing on the rocks and Cape Breton as well. Yeah, because the Welsh writing on the rocks in America is very much at the core of King Arthur Conspiracy book, which is coming out, and you can order that one. I haven't really come on to the Scots yet. The tricky thing with the Scottish, and it's bizarre in here, it kind of skirts around the issue, is that you got supposedly the original settlements, if you read the history books before the 1680s, where you got Albaticus being one of the 3 groups. So you got the Lloyd in England, Cumbria, the Cymry in Wales, Albanaticus, the Alban. In Welsh language, it's still Alban, Scotland. And Lloyd is still England and Cymru is still Wales, but hey, that doesn't seem to count for anything, bizarrely. So what do you have with Scotland then? You've got... This is one of those, of course, everything's wrong in the world, where there's a huge push in Scotland to bring back the original language, and Scottish Gaelic's an official language. I think a lot of the Parliament's done in it, this kind of thing. Was actually that language would have come in the, say, 600s, 700s. Before that, they would have been speaking a kind of Briton, or Brythonic, Cymraeg, very similar. And not really sure what the Picts spoke. That's another story, who the Picts are, which comes into this. One of the comments we got here is also serves our connection to the old language, as the spelling is completely different from the phonetic pronunciation. Yeah, this is the thing. So I'm not sure I'm picking up halfway through a conversation, but the spelling of English is very, very weird. And it seems to be in a lot of, well, just my observations and view now, it's not from any books. Some very dodgy stuff was done with the English language round about the same period, 17th century, early 18th century. Oxford University starting to standardise, try and produce dictionaries, King James version of the Bible, all these things were happening to try and standardise the language. And it seemed, even from the current regional dialects like Scouse and Geordie and all that, there was probably lots of different languages being spoken in England. There wasn't a standardised language. This is a very new thing. And I think it's all part of this dominance to get the people speaking as homogeneous, the same as possible. Speak the same language. The penalties for speaking Welsh were huge. Children being beaten and all sorts of things. It was illegal to speak any Welsh in any official capacity, in a law court or anything like that. Up until quite recently, it was still illegal to speak Welsh in the House of the Parliament. This been a real suppression there, and I think that it happened even more in England with the regional dialects and potentially different languages, not just dialects. So the spelling is definitely a big part of it. So Welsh does have vowels. Like Cymraeg, Y is a vowel, C. So you got the and Raig, we got 3 in Cymraeg. A lot of words start with Aber, Aberystwyth, or Aber, Was it Abacum nowhere? Alan Wilson says. So yeah, there are vowels. Yeah, there's 7. You've got the A, E, I, O, U, and then W and Y, also considered vowels. Same with Egyptian hieroglyphs. Another big clue there, okay? Right, what else we got here? Yeah, the Yahweh symbol. Well, the Welsh version of that is you got the 3 Arwen symbol. 3 vowels, and I'm not sure if it's A, E, U, EU, or A, I, O, U. Ayo is supposed to be the original name for God and the basis for the old British writing system Colburn comes from. Right, okay. Guys, great chat here. Loads of good information. Some real... Wow. Study the Etruscans. Yes. Sorry. Have you seen when I put this on? It's the most pathetic stand. Yeah, we've got these for Leon Zavi, little mini dictionaries. Funny enough, we're talking about spellings and dictionaries in Oxford. There we go. See, it's Oxford English. It's not necessarily English. Yeah, that's right way up. Looks upside down on my screen. Oxford English. It's curious how they do that, isn't it? It's not the Oxford University Dictionary. It's Oxford English. It's their version of English. Just one to think about there. Yes, the BBC, you're quite right, Kay. Yes, it went on to the BBC and received pronunciation, and we all have to speak the same way, don't we? Anyway, sorry, this is called Race and Time, which is quite funny because I'm falling behind time now. Anyway, so what I'm going to say, just one thing on that last there before we'll jump ahead in a minute. Thank you for sticking with me. Anyway, so he talks about how language theory changed, went from the Bible thing and the Gomerian thing and all that kind of stuff. I will read this couple of paragraphs if people don't mind. Right, so anyway, it does not explain why Indo-European and other languages appear in a specific area. Why would a specific area speak a certain way? We have seen in Epezron and others how language and race has been linked together in 18th and 19th century thought. The spread of languages was thus seen in terms of movements of people, even if preceding populations are not necessarily wiped out but absorbed. This concept, I'm going to stop there, sorry I keep interrupting myself, but one of the things we're looking at with the Britainshidden history is, according to British records, there were no people to be displaced. Now, we've got different theories on this. Why? Mine is that the ice shelf is moving around all the time, and at that time it had been in Europe. Alan Wilson mentions this, not specifically in this case. So it had been uninhabitable, and as the ice receded, people had moved in. But we got origin stuff to show that the origins actually might have been in Britain all along. I didn't come here at all. And everything's the wrong way around. Yes, thank you, Marshall. IOU is the screech of the comment. That's right. Yeah, I should know that. We've been proofing that chapter, and we did it last week. I think we did all the chapters now, Marshall. I think we're there, or maybe a couple more, but nothing big to do. Right, sorry. So they link together race and language, and even that's not always the case, but there you go. I mean, most English speakers now live in India, so I mean, how misleading would that be? So the spread of the concept was extended back into the past. So it became normal to speak of Indo-Europeans as a definable racial group who spoke the reconstructed Indo-European language and had a distinctive social structure. Language theory was just beginning to distance itself from the Tower of Babel and biblical paradigm which had dominated 17th and 18th century theories. This is the sentence, got the big asterisk. Though it might still be argued that the, quotes, lost Indo-European language was one of the original languages. So it shows the ancient roots, it shows it could happen, it shows it could be the original language. That's quite funny, isn't it? But what he will never do is actually mention that it could be Welsh, for example, or Gaelic, all right? That's not possible, it's just lost. It's really, really weird. It's like a blind spot. Because this author as well, he goes out of his way to explain that Britons were never Celtic. He even gives like quotes from Caesar, who explains that they spoke different language. I've got the notes off my head now. You got the Aquitani, the Belgae, and the Celtic had different languages. So he puts them in 3 different categories, different parts of Gaul. Okay, so you test yourselves. Your memory's better than you think, all right? I mean, this is just bizarre then, you see, because what explains then all about the suppression of these languages, how it went on, Scottish, Irish. But anyway, there's listen to this bit there. So this took on extreme form of this suppression, Highlander against Lowlander, Irish, Catholics and Protestants. It's setting everyone against everyone as always and trying to destroy the languages. So this took its extreme form in the denial of the existence of a genuine tradition of Irish and Gaelic literature, a position taken up by Samuel Johnson, an opposition to the translation of the Bible into Gaelic and Irish. They try to stop it being translated on the grounds that such barbaric languages should be suppressed. I don't think people in the modern world have any idea how brutal the suppression has been in these other languages. I mean, really, really brutal, And then actually Iolo Morgannwg gets a mention in here, which is a bit of a shock. So thus, by the early 19th century, university accepted that the pre-Roman inhabitants of Britain were Celts. It had come in like that. Nothing behind it apart from this triangle thing I was going about. I know people say thinking outside the box like a triangle. There's the start of the idea there. One person, quite often, guessing, idea, a thesis. A few people follow that person. Then a few more, and they start writing books, and they all start quoting each other, and everything down here. So when this book comes along down there, and he quotes that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy, you think, wow, it's amazing, he's quoting all these different sources. No, he's not. He's quoting one source. Different spins on it. What they're not doing is looking when things move outside that paradigm they call it here, isn't it? But the other thing is, it just does not mention the Welsh language. It's so weird. Even Iolo gets mentioned, but not really the language. Right, I'm going to jump to the end now, just cut to the chase. It's a great book, by the way. I highly recommend it. Because what I really like about it is it's got the history of how the terms have come at. And I haven't got time to go through all this now, but there's all sorts of things like how cultures, groups... there was one thing I can't skip on this. I cannot skip this. Right, there's a useful summary here. It's getting late. There's a good graph there. You can see that. It's like this. Well, like a bit of critical thinking. Okay, so you got let's go back slightly. So the idea is Celtic and Gauls are separate. Then you've got Celts are a subgroup of Gauls, and then not all Gauls are Celts. And there's different ways you can look at it. The relationship between Gauls and Celts, depending on which writer you look at. Okay, but what you don't find is any of them going into Britain. So I'm going to start a couple. I love reading this book. It's great. Right. So one point they make: all Gauls and Celts. All Gauls are Celts. And see, I do have to explain this a little bit. Is that you've got, if you look at someone like Caesar or something like that, he would call, and he's the one who more or less came up with the idea of Gauls and France and Germany and all that kind of thing. So he says you've got the whole of France, or Gaul, even more than France, from west and down to Italy, and they're Gauls, and the Celts are part of that. And then they splurge over the other side of the Rhine. So it gets a bit messy if you're trying to separate Germans from French. And I think this is important. And then you've got modern day academics say, no. All of it's Celts, and the Gauls are a subgroup of the Celts. That's how it's been twisted around. That's how it's gone bonkers. It's gone completely the wrong way around, okay? And as he even says there, I underlined it, it is unknown in the ancient literature. This idea that everything was Celtic is ridiculous. Here's the exact quote from Caesar, which I was trying to remember. All Gaul is divided into three parts, of which one is occupied by the Belgae, another by the Aquitani, and a third by the people called Celtae in their own language, but Galli in ours. So he's kind of mixing up Gauls and Celts, but it's only a third of France, and nothing to do with Britain. All right, there's tons and tons of notes here. I've got to jump way forward. I can't only cover so much. So I want to get to the key. We could talk for hours and hours and hours about this. The whole thing. I want to go to one other thing. Right, let's look at this. We're going to do a little bit of research together here now, because this suddenly struck me as well. And I'm going to get to Babylonians and things. I've got to do it pretty quickly because it's a school night and the clocks went forward and everyone's going to be tired. Right. I'm going to use... we'll use Wikipedia, all right? I know it's not... I will put it on screen in a second. Hang on. Right, okay. All right, hopefully you can see that. Right, let's look at Latin. All right, Latin culture. Here we go. This suddenly struck me. I don't know why no one's hit on this before. Probably people have. Why haven't I seen it before? Right, if you're not aware of it, this is called a sort of, what do you call it, dispersion theory. Here we go. So the idea is you get a new, there's Hallstatt, and there's Latin. So, in basic terms, the idea is a new super clever people or a breakthrough or something, like we can now make really good pots or wherever it is. It's a new people or invention. It's such a daft idea, it's hard to explain it in simple terms. But as soon as you start putting it in simple terms, you realise how bonkers it is. Anyway, the idea is then you find a place with the highest concentration of these type of goods, and then you can show that that culture, they try and argue the people and the language as well, but that's falling apart. This is very much a 60s theory. The culture spins out from there, and you can trace it all back to this place. This is where they found the most finds. But it's not true at all, because the main reason they found most of the things there was because it was a very specific incident happened at Latin where the level of a lake got lowered, and there was loads of stuff which had been thrown in the lake. There's things like this going on. And it's also, as points out in the book in fairness, not every culture buries goods with the people. Some have air graves, you just get left out. I'm going to come on to that with the Babylonian, which I've got to crack on. Anyway, my point was that what struck me, though, is what they've done. They've taken Latin as the source of the Celtic. Can you see that? I can't seem to make it any bigger, unfortunately. The Latin is this area here, all right, in Switzerland, near Neuchâtel, where I used to go and visit, funny enough. I wish I'd known more about this stuff then. I'd have gone to have a closer look. So this is where they're giving southeast England on this map, by the way, over to the Belgae and Atrebates. I'm not sure if the Belgae were British anyway, and they actually went the other way, but there you go. It doesn't really matter. As you'll see, it's even less important if all this is true. So the idea is Latin culture, Celtic culture starts from there. But hang on a second. When I looked into here, I looked into there, we're back to where Raisha again. I don't know if Monica's online tonight. We're back to Raisha. So when we look at the migration trail, suddenly these links are explained because some of the map's so small. But anyway, the idea is that we're over here in Anatolia. This is where the Britons are. By the way, the Irish should come this way along Africa, cross onto the Straits of Gibraltar, and they've trudged all the way around there to Ireland, all right? Possibly stopping here on the way Iberia, and off they go. The Britons claim that Aeneas and those people went to settle here after the fall of Troy, which would be about 650 BC, and from there then they've spread out, and this is one of the areas they spread out to. This is where it mentions there Raetic or Raetian. This is the ancient language of Raetia. You can read that using Welsh. It's in the King Arthur Conspiracy book in volume 1. You can translate that. They got like deer antlers where they carved the letters on. You can read it and it makes sense. So this is where the area is coming from. And I also start to wonder about Hallstatt. See, I've always been very, very dismissive of it all because they're... But you shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. They found these things there. This diffusion idea that, I don't know how Sims magically got all the way to Ireland, skipping all these people in between, doesn't make any sense. But again, if we're looking at shared origins, instead of moving from one to the next, these could well share an origin with the Cymry and Erse or Irish, and even the Lloygrs in England, all right, and the Scots up here as well, okay? But particularly, this is a Cymry link here, and the same there. So suddenly start thinking, oh, hang on a second, this is all, this is the information's all there, but they're just not looking for these connections. It's so bizarre. Right, okay, I could talk all night about that. I need to push on to the next bit. So where do we get to on here then? So we've got the Celt thing. Oh yeah. Right, and get a copy of this book, I would, because it does talk about Iceland and Denmark, the Cimbri, all the different groups. But what I want to crack on to... all right, we're not going to be able to do all of it. But I want to get to the end. I've got to get to the end. That's not fair otherwise, okay? So what they talk about there is different types of burials, different types of goods moving around. But a curious comment in here, right? Finally get to Britain, all right? Page 180. So as previously stated, the ancient sources never refer to the inhabitants of Britain as Celts, but from the beginning they are either Britanoi or Britanni. Caesar writes of Belgae coming to raid and then to settle, and these cross-channel affiliations are confirmed by various later sources. And there's loads of different sources. Oh, the one exception might be we've got this Parisi here, and apparently there's a Parisi there up in Yorkshire. Well, that's a bit too far south of Yorkshire to me, it should be further up. That's worth looking into. It could well be, I don't know. But anyway, one thing which is generally accepted now is the indigenous nature of the British Iron Age. There's no such thing as this nonsense of cumulative, I can't even say it, Celticity, which is where the Celtic thing just flowed out from Latin and Hallstatt, and everyone went, oh wow, I love the way you make your pots, let's all be Celts. It's just really weird. Right, so quickly about Ireland. Now this amazes me, okay? It says here, right, Ireland is the one Celtic-speaking country for which an independent literary tradition has been claimed in the form of poems and legal tracts written down in the early Christian era. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. This guy has spoken at Cardiff University. He must have heard of Wales. As he never heard of, he was in correspondence with Wilson and Blackett. All the Welsh literature, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of it. He says, and we're not talking, BC. I mean, even Caesar refers to the Welsh having a written language. It looks a bit like the Greek and all that kind of stuff. It's bizarre. Then he says, it's difficult, for instance, to understand why the division of Ireland into 4 or 5 provinces should be the same as in the Late Iron Age. We can explain that. The Babylonian links. The Irish has got the same thing as well. As above, so below, the 4 quarters. I think they messed up the Irish history as well, because then you've got the belief promulgated by most authors that Ireland somehow became Celtic in the 3rd, 2nd centuries BC. I mean, how can this Celtic thing leap from there, skip over a load of countries and Britain and Wales and just land in there? Anyway, he agrees with me on this one. The belief promulgated by most authors that Ireland somehow became Celtic in the 2nd, 3rd centuries BC is thus founded on virtually no evidence, or rather a lack of evidence. You can't say it there. Same with Denmark, the Cimbrian. There's loads more we could talk about on here. Oh, I got bits I really want to go through. They've got the links with Sanskrit, but he just does not mention the Welsh language. It's so weird. He talks about the links with the Indian language. Well, the links between Sanskrit and Cymraeg are obvious to anyone who's looked at both of them. The languages are very, very similar. And it says Basque and Breton have all but disappeared. No, they haven't. It's really weird. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So in the island, independence of Britain, and then what he's saying then is that even though countries like Ireland and Canada and places like that have become independent, they still don't promote the languages, which is, maybe it's changed since he wrote this book. I don't know. I suppose it's almost 20 years ago. Anyway, so the same with the French language. I mean, it is being persecuted out. So, but in this case, we know that a largely Celtic-speaking population had simply adopted Latin with no huge change in population. How do you know that? And I think they're putting the cart before the donkey with Latin. I think Latin comes much later. So therefore, we should therefore view the simplistic QP, that's one of those stupid 2-letter things between Irish and Welsh, dichotomy in the Celtic languages with considerable scepticism, especially the chronological interpretation that Q is always older than P. They go through all this, they explain. It even says in here, the oldest language in Europe, or Welsh is older than English. All these languages have equally long histories. It says it there. They all have equally long histories. Well, why does your little diagram show it doesn't? And it was invented in the medieval times, a spin-off from Latin or something. The difference is merely that English was introduced into Britain more recently, and Basque probably has a longer history in Western Europe than the Indo-European languages. So he's talking about the origin. It's all there, but he won't go the last bit. It's bizarre. Right, I'll have to skip the last part of this book because I want to talk about the other thing. But the summary is very good. This does not make it any less real, though names like Celts may be arbitrarily chosen. If we do not use these names, we will only have to invent new ones. Well, you can't call people Irish or Welsh or... I just don't get it. I don't get where he goes on this. It's almost like he's trying to backtrack a bit. Right, okay, now I'm going to blow your mind now. Sorry, you've been very good. If you stayed there the whole hour and a half, I'm very impressed. Because the thesis I think he's proposing in his book, and people are saying, but they just won't say it out loud for some reason, is that yes, there is an ancient origin. And the key glad you paid attention. Sorry about that. What we're going to do is do a quick look at South Wales, all right? Let's just zoop. Right, can you see that? Yeah. All right, okay, so I'm back on Google Earth. Google Earth Pro. I don't know why they call it Pro. I didn't pay for it or anything, but there we are. So I'm going to introduce this subject because this is going to be the main thing for next week. And a lot of people say they like the ancient stuff. What Steve Willits has been doing, I'm going to try and show it next week, is mind-blowing, all right? Ignore my little yellow markers. They're the ones I've done for other sites I've visited. Well, you can have a look, but you have to ignore them. There's nothing secret. Just working out where the different stones are and plotting them and things. Now, when we get to... if you want to do a bit of prep for next week, try and... I'll tell you what's very good. It's an audio book, The Story of Gilgamesh. It's supposed to be the oldest story in the world, the original story. Other stories come from it, like Wilson Blackett say, even this Beowulf story is a retelling of Gilgamesh. It's very important. And also the ancient Babylonian Zodiacs, supposed to be I can be careful, the earliest. And this ties in again with Hugh Evans' work, because what Hugh Evans has shown is that, well, in my view anyway, that, well, he's definitely shown on the front cover of his book that that's got to be the first Zodiac, because the mountains can't be moved around. So if you've got 7 big mountains, you need to find 7 big stars, and then that becomes, whatever star sign you want to call it and things. So it seems to have its origins there. So why is it in Babylon? Yeah, that's another question. Another question is we got another one in South Wales. The similar sort of thing. In many ways, even more compelling. All right? So I picked up one spot here. Hentradenny. Oh, I'm going to get some notes out now, because some of this gets... I don't speak Welsh, by the way, in case you're wondering. I am trying to learn. I'm getting better, doing trio ddysgu siarad Cymraeg, doing hoffi siarad Cymraeg, but I'm not that good at siarad Cymraeg, okay? Right, so what we're looking at then... Right. The first one is, what we're going to do is follow the journey. Let's come out a little bit. There's the Severn Estuary. I think you know where we are. Now, where we're looking is Tumpalum, all these places you see. Polaris might not be there, but there's another reason why it's in St. Gennydd, and St. Gennydd is an important part of the story. All of this is an important part of the story. It's been an absolute travesty if these hills get wrecked for the wind farms. It's heartbreaking. I can't even talk about it anymore. But then we've got the Garth, should be round about there, okay? This is the highest mountain in South Wales. Now, what we're going to look at here, I'm not going to do it tonight because it's late and I want Steve to go through it as well. I'm not stealing his thunder. I just want to give you a little taster for it. First one is, when we look at which language is the most ancient, you got a lot of these very ancient Babylonian names translate perfectly using Cymraeg. Okay? Like Enki, the wild man and this kind of stuff. All these old names, Enkidu, sorry. If you go back to the old names. Now, the story of Gilgamesh, Steve has worked out, runs across South Wales here, and then across the Severn. And you can see it, and he's shown me. And not only that, this whole area, all the way up to the Beacons. So we're talking from Cardiff up to the Beacons, what's that, 30, 40 miles, right out over Gwent. This whole area is one gigantic Babylonian star map, and the names are just everywhere. And there's no fiddling. You just turn them up, they are, within a few yards spot on. It's absolutely remarkable. So I'll give some examples. The Polaris is actually going to be further down here, not far away from there, but this is a demonstration, like university area. Actual Polaris would probably be near with this area. Now what we're going to do, for example, if you look at the old, I haven't got the time to put the graphics up, but if you look at the old Babylonian Zodiac, they don't have Orion the bowman. You have the shepherd, Bugail, with the old staff, alright? Now this is a little bit of mixture of English and Welsh here, which is why I think it's important. Another point we can make from it. So hen in old in Welsh is hen staff. Look at this. Hen staff court. Go. Come on, do your magic thing. Can you see this? This is hen staff. That's the old staff. What a weird name, hen staff. This is where the staff would be if you were to look at their Zodiac when you put it in the right place. There's hen staff. There's place names all the way around. Weird names. Like this scratchwood, or the scratching of the wood, which I mentioned earlier, I'll come back to it. This is to do with the sky burials, whereby if you go back to ancient Babylon, and Steve knows all the names of all the different creatures and all that kind of stuff, but you had these kind of harpy type things, where it became harpies in Greek mythology, but before them, like cherubs, would come down, the vultures, and they would scratch out the souls and take them off to heaven. That's why you don't want to be buried underground, you want to be buried where the vultures can get you, okay? And there's a scratch wood, exactly where the vulture should be. Where the eye of the vulture is, you got the bird's eye, all these different places. It freaks me out when I looked at it all. Even then, looking at the Garth, alright? Let's gonna Gordon Bennett. Have we got enough things open, do you think? Alright, so we got the Welsh dictionary thing here. Now I want to show you, where should we start? Right, we got too many things going on. Right, Uruk. Let's go to Uruk. Alright. Oh, Orcs. Uruk, that's interesting. Yeah, anyway, so what we're looking at here is Uruk is the start of the journey. Okay, so it's in Babylonia, supposedly. One is, maybe there's another one here as well, or maybe this is the one. So Uruk played a leading role in early urbanization of Sumer. It's the early place, right? Now, what does Uruk mean? So Uruk is the declaration. Is it here? Oh, did I have what it means here? Oh, well, you can see it in the other books and everything. This is the start of the journey. It's where the proclamation is. And if you look... Sorry, I got that wrong. Beg your pardon. That's going to come in a second. This is the buttresses. This is Uruk is known as the Buttress City. Where is it on here? It should be here, so I'm getting tired now. It's known as the Wall City. Anyway, maybe it's just in the Gilgamesh. It talks about that. Like I was saying, if you want to watch Gilgamesh, what I do now and again, if I'm working on something, is go to YouTube and have an audio book. You listen to the whole story of Gilgamesh, because it's a hard read, but it's quite good to listen. There's some good ones out there. Alright, so it's known as the Buttress City, right, the Wall City in the story of Gilgamesh. And then you come on to the Garth Mountain, and Garth also means buttress, alright? It's the same thing. Now, another one which is fascinating then, if you follow the story of Gilgamesh, what he does, he meets, it's a bit rude, you're going to be careful how I talk about this stuff, because this is a family channel. So this is all going back now to the story of Gilgamesh and that. They are the old Shamak in the old Babylonian version of Gilgamesh. There's a female character, appears in tablets, and she is the sacred prostitute. Lady of the night, okay? Woman of poor virtues. And you can read all about her story and how she led Enkidu astray and all that kind of thing, alright? Or introduce him to the world, if you like. So what we have now, I'm going to just give you a couple of clues here. The whole thing will be next week, right? Next week's a huge show. I was going to save it for the 100th show because it's so important. So we've got the Garth in this area with the staff. He goes to the thing. He starts his journey from Uruk. And then what he has to do then, if you read the story of Gilgamesh, he's has long journeys. He goes to the woods. He goes to the Tanglewood. All different places all along this route. They're all there. All the names, all the places mentioned. And the one I think is most dramatic, because we come to the Seven. Does anyone know how the Seven got its name? The Welsh version of the word, by the way. It's not the Seven. It's the Epezron, all right? And this is... I'm going to go through all the places next week. Be prepared to have your mind blown. And the Zodiac landing on here is just off the chart. And it's not quite as Wilson and Blackett had it. It is a bit different. So if we go to the GB3, if we look up, the other one I mentioned earlier in the program, which I mentioned it again then, is the thing about Sison. Remember I asked the question, what is Rue Sison? As I have always thought, as most people, and someone put in the answers, the ridge of the Saxons is where they met their doom after the battle that was up there. And that may well have happened, because these names have a weird way of working in more than one way. So never think, it's that, so it can't be that, all right? It might be both, or neither. All right, one doesn't prove the other or disprove the other. Anyway, so if you look at Sice, it's normally get these English-Welsh combinations, like we had staff in English word, hen, staff, English-Welsh, scratch wood is like English-Welsh. If you look in here, if you go for the word Sice, it's this rubbish. I hate this GPC. Anyway, what it can mean, it's like they're phonetically says, like says, like, he says this, you says that. Hang on, I'll just say perhaps. Hang on, there we go. Here we go. So it means say. Right? I can't understand how they put anything on here. So brethren say, it means he says or whatever. It's say, look, S-A-Y, all right? So it's phonetic, say. I don't like the GPC at all for lots of reasons, but there we go. I can do it on screen quickly. So we've got say, son. So we've got son. This is the report, rumour, the announcement. This is the announcement. So Rue Saison is the ridge of the announcement. So this is where the announcement of the goddess makes to Gilgamesh, and that's effectively the start of the journey, okay? Now what we're going to do then, we're going to pass all along South Wales. You're going to cross the Severn, all right? Which in Welsh, spell it right, Rossi B, spell it right, Hafren. That's the Welsh word for the Severn, right? Ever wonder why it's called Hafren? What does Hafren mean? Untidy, disreputable woman, prostitute. That's where it is. How freaky is this? That's the route of the story of Gilgamesh, and you can see all the stops on the way. Not just some, not just a couple, the whole thing. And as I like to joke then, as I joke with Steve, so when you leave this sort of known world, and then you go into this dead area, if you're in England. That's my little joke. One of the things I want to mention there, because Rue Sison, and this is where it ties in with Hugh Evans' book, which I'm sure Hugh would remember. Why wouldn't he? Why would he not, I mean. Hang on, let's just see what we're doing on the chat, because I think there's going to be a few comments on this. So if you're looking, I know I'm using GPC, sorry Hugh, it's just because it's on screen, all right? So what we got here, if you remember in Hugh's book, he mentions that Rue Sison then is the announcer mountain. It's the same thing here, it's the announcement, it's the start of it. Microphone's back on now, isn't it? Yeah. People are side blokes, so we got this Sison, okay? Which is Betelgeuse, the red star. Alright, so we can go through that one. And then right where that Betelgeuse, the red star, is supposed to be, there's a burial chamber below the Garth. Alright, and it's you got Money with Rue Sison in Hugh Evans' book as well. Oh yeah, the other one I was showing on the map. Sorry, I got it slightly wrong then. I've just been going through this quickly. Here's the other place I had marked. Oh yeah, I'm going to type it again. We've also got the Welsh term then for where the invitation was. Shamat Shamat, this lady of poor repute, she lures Enkidu. She brings him into the story. She gives him the invitation, okay? And if we look at the Welsh for that, Hendra Denny, again, this is sending the invitation. And if we look on the map, it's right there. You follow the whole story. It's quite remarkable. So this is where Shamat lose Enkidu, and then you have to go all the way across. They follow this long quest. It's a journey. Read the story or get it on the audio book. Try and learn it by next week because you got all these places. Yeah, it's the ramparted city is Uruk, and the Garth is the ramparted. It's just amazing. So I'm not going to give all of it right now because you couldn't see that last week, could you? Sorry, I apologise. Anyway, if you look on the map, there's Hendra Denny. All right, so what I did when you couldn't see what I was doing, I just typed Hendra Denny in there. Search. And let's back off. All right. And this is, excuse me, that's Hendra Denny is now. What a weird name, okay? You see this Hendra Denny place. And there's a lot of very, very weird names. Like a farm called the Left Shoulder and stuff like that, which makes no sense at all. And you realize that's the body of, one of the gods that's involved in the shoulders right there. It's so big. It covers all this area. It's quite remarkable. And the story of Gilgamesh is one part of it, and the Zodiac is the other thing. And one of the things I like to think about, this is Andy's idea, which I'm not going to say just yet, because I want people to think about their own ideas. Why would you do this? I know we got the Chaldean thing, as above, as so below, but why would you actually do this? Can you think? Andy's very practical mind, so maybe there's a practical reason for it. Okay. All right. So where was Laten? That's what I was saying. Was actually Laten. The reason this explosion of culture in Laten is because that's when the Brutus, well, not the Brutus, but the Aeneas migration went to Italy, and they went from there to Laten. The Raetians, we can read the language, we know where they came from. They're so hard trying to push Laten culture south into northern Italy. Not even thought for 1 second could have gone the other way. And to me, this is a big moment, a really big moment to see that Laten is actually probably where the Cymru was, or the Britons, whatever you want to call them. All right. So when it comes to Welsh v Irish v English, I'd think particularly of all this Babylonian stuff and the fact you can read ancient Babylonian names and Egyptian names. Like the Egyptian ones, like Nefertiti, the most famous female probably. Nefertiti. Nevern is heaven. Titi, you are twice divine. You are the divine heavenly one. They don't even have to fiddle with the words. They just read in Welsh. And I got to think, I don't know Gaelic. I don't know the language. But I've been caught up. I've fallen in the trap a few times over the last few years of having a little bit of a battle where someone comes on with, it's all Irish. Irish the first. No. If you got two groups who went their different ways and ended up quite near each other, neither's first. Okay? And that's kind of what the book says, but they won't go there. They won't go the last step. And then it makes me wonder then about the English. We've got two lots of English, don't forget. Got the Lloyd, which is the English who were there before the Saxons arrived, so in the Roman times. Maybe they're more or less wiped out by the comet of 562. Who knows? Who knows how many are still in England? What we do know, if we look at the DNA and everything, there's only a small percentage of the Germanic Angles and Saxons. And I'm going to leave you a really weird, there's the physical evidence, sorry, yeah. A really weird thought on the that I had the other day. And I want to mention Marco again. I don't know if Marco's still watching. If you go to Marco's channel, Cyrus 2020, one of the things he talked to me about a couple of years ago when I first met him, he has this amazing idea that all the people started, he has like this channeling type thing where he gets messages through. I know a lot of people think it's cracked, but after a couple of years of it, it's remarkably compelling, okay? I don't know how it works or anything. One of the things he said was that all the people went out from Britain and now they're gradually coming back. Like the people, for example, he says the Persians come from Perth. You've got Perth in Scotland, Perth is Persians. You can go all the way around the country and you can find all the people. What it struck me when I was doing this research for this programme was, when we got all those Saxon name places like Essex, Sussex and Middlesex, do you think maybe there's just a chance that they went from there to Saxony? It's the other way around. It's a weird thought, isn't it? That they went out and they came back again. It could well be. I mean, there certainly seems to be a link at some point, which is why the languages are close. All these languages are fairly close, really, when you think about, if you just invented a random language, you wouldn't have so many similar words, whichever way you look at it. So that was a curious thought there. Yeah, not quite sure where to go with that one. Because we're trying to talk about recorded history, and Wilson Blackett's recorded history, and I'm trying to keep the programme recorded history as much as possible. What counts as records? Alright, so the physical evidence for the oldest language, the place names all over the place. If we can show, the place names on Hugh Evans' map up in Gwynedd, I mean, they're important. And if we can show the Babylonian story on the landscape as well, you know, that must be worth something, that the language must be ancient. Alright, so coming soon. Oh, Arnie B, you going to play us out?
Okay.
I like people like us a bit of stick with my singing. I didn't know. I thought I sang great tonight. It's the best I can normally do. Right, so coming soon. Oh, yeah. This is my week this week. I am off to a secret location. It's not that secret, actually. I've got an interesting week ahead. Trying to work out Caliban or Excalibur. Where is it? Where's the great sword? Because it's going to get a little bit weird this week. Because you got Lawrence the Druid, we'll have to see him again. Sorry I haven't put all the videos up. I've been working my hours getting the book finished. So much research, so much things to do. Videos and that have suffered a bit. And I got Deborah, who's been brilliant, and she helps. All I got to do is organise the videos and send them, and she will edit them and put them up. Even that I haven't been able to do. I mean, every waking minute. I'm getting up at 6:30 in the morning. I don't even do mornings normally. It is so exciting. I felt bad last week because I left it on a bit of a negative downer note, and it's not. It's so exciting. We are bursting out with all this new research. We've got to get together. We've got to have this meeting. We've got to, press the flesh, see each other for real, swap ideas. And I know, because I get so many emails, and I apologise if you sent me an email in the last month or two. I might not have I do read everyone. I do promise. Every comment. I try and read every comment on YouTube, every comment, every message I get on Facebook, every message on emails. And I've got to get this bad habit. I read it, that's a really interesting idea. I'll look into that. Yeah. And I meant to reply, and then don't, of course. So don't take it as me being rude or anything, okay? So what we're going to have... How much of this can I talk about? Yeah, go on, why not? If anyone's still on the programme after this length of time, they're getting way too far gone anyway. I've got someone who I enormously respect for his abilities to identify things through channeling, whatever. And we got a druid, and we got places where Excalibur might be and where Arthur might have died, alright? And I might do another song from the musical if people would like to hear it. You can hear maybe Arthur's song or their Why Does Nobody Like a Priest song. There's a few funny ones in all different styles. I'm very pleased with the musical, so I hope people get into that. We'll do the story of Gilgamesh. I have to nail and the Babylonian star map. Steve and I'm away for a few days doing my filming. But hopefully I can get Steve to sit down again. Because I've got a recorded interview with him. It's just voice only though. And the idea was we'd add the graphics later. And then realise it's about 3 hour talking. It'd take, I don't know, months to put the video together. So I'm going to try and do it on a Zoom or something where Steve can share the information himself, okay? Right, okay, wow. I don't know where that... I knew the time would just fly by tonight. I knew I just wouldn't even get everywhere. Thank you very much, everyone. I don't know if anybody's still there. Wow, yeah, it's actually gone up. More people watching now. Okay, let's listen to the channels. All right, okay. Oh my goodness, it's getting really technical. There's so many people cleverer than me. Latin. Very good, Marshall. Latin. Yeah, if you want to use a dictionary, use Spurrell, Meyrig, and a lovely old one by Thomas Jones. Yeah, I got it on my desk. All those words were in this one as well, by the way, just to confirm. It's a reprint from Gyan Publishing. This is William Owen Pugh from 1800 something. It's got the very snappy name of A Dictionary of the Welsh Language explained in English with numerous illustrations from the literary remains and from the living speech of the Cymry, to which are prefixed the Welsh grammar. That's the catchy name for that one. Boy, they could sell a book in them days, couldn't they? That's all Welsh to English. There's the book. Look for John Collis, please. There's stacks of information. He is full respect to him. I love to interview and have a chat to him because he's open and he gives you the information. What I like is the history of how conclusions have come to, and he just tells it how it is, but he won't, and he backs off. He gets to the edge, and he won't look over. Very strange. There we are. Right, so thank you much, everyone. Right, wow, it's 10 o'clock. My goodness, you should all be in bed by now. I don't know about you, I'm feeling pretty worn out after that. That was good, thank you. Hope you enjoyed that. Good night, enjoy your trip, be safe. Yes, I will be travelling around. Thank you, Laurie, and thank you for the gift as well. And yes, yeah, we'll do. There's so much, and I have to do. I don't know when it's all going to go up, really. So everyone else as well, keep going with it because the stuff, all that Babylonian stuff. That's Steve Willett, all right. I haven't any of it. I'm just a reporter. Most of my reports from Wilson and Blackett's, but other people are doing great work as well. Another chat with Marshall soon, hopefully. Hugh Evans's Gwynedd thing. It's so exciting. It's so much more exciting, all the stuff that's going on in Britain's hidden history, than the whole of the moribund academia chugging along, making a change every 50, 60 years or so. Okay. Do I have a favourite book list? Wow. Hang on. There's a few up there. Just on the walls, as you can see them. Which subjects do you want to go into, isn't it? There's tons of books, rooms of them. Right, okay. Scarab City as well, hello. Yeah. Scarab City, you just reminded me. Yes, thank you, Deborah. Deborah, please, I'm going to send the videos. Thank you for your emails I didn't reply to. Yes. I got to send it out. Thank you, Mark. Any of our followers out there, like Zoe and that, are good musicians. They're proper singers, right? Who can sing a female part. And are actually a female, rather than me trying to sing it. Arnie, you've never played this. I feel terribly unfair. We haven't rehearsed or anything, but we've been going 2 hours. Do you reckon you could join in on Mother of the Princess? Have you got something else in mind?
I have no clue how that's played.
No, that's not fair, is it? No, play something else. Go on, that's right. I just want to play it again. Go on, Arnie, you play your bit. And I'll when everyone's had enough, I'll do my bit. Alright, so thank you very much, everyone. Charles, say goodnight in the comments. Good night, everyone. A bit of Welsh culture music. Yeah, don't forget, get your orders in for the King Arthur Conspiracy. That'll be out soon. Oops, sorry, Arnold, cut you off. Very good, very good. Tight-head pop this morning, violin virtuoso this evening. Good boy. And what was that one called out?
It's one from this book called Tom Jones.
Tom Jones, there we are. Tom Jones. Alright. Okay, well, the pro's officially finished.
Very soon, there's quite a lot of Tom Joneses.
Right, I'll catch up in a sec, alright? Very good, Art. Nice playing. Oh, he goes thumbs up from his mum as well, so you're a lot better now. And I'm going to indulge myself by playing this song again. So if you want to switch off, or turn your volume off, now's the time to do it. I was going to play another song from the musical, but I shall leave that for next week. But good, yeah, the story I was telling you about. So the story, give a little bit of background on the story of the musical. So it starts off with Tudric's funeral, a bit like in Arthur the War King, which is a great book, the story of Arthur. And then he's going to go and learn about the Sword and Stone. Boy, then suddenly tragedy hits because Myrick gets injured. And which means that Arthur has to step up. And he's only 15. So I've got a song then. Have I got music for that one? Oh, it's not here. Who Will Follow a Boy, which is his song. All about how is he going to get all his generals and that to follow him. And then he gets married to Guinevere. Of course, she sees Gurgen, who's Lancelot. So there's a little bit of like, oh, is she going to run off with him? Sort of slipped into the back of the story there. And the music is all about trust, really. Well, who can he trust? You got these dodgy priests. You've got his wife, who's not sure about even marrying him and seems to like someone else more. Then you've got all the double crossing and the politics going on. So it's that's the kind of thing. And hopefully it'll be good. Some tunes to set you tap in as you leave then. But I'm not a songwriter, but I've enjoyed doing this. Who wouldn't want to be the queen? Yeah, if you fancy singing this, I can send you the music. You know, someone from the group, Zoe or someone. You do much better than me. It's every little girl's dream to be the mother of his princes. But what about me? Is this my life to be? Just to be a wife to be the mother of his princes. But what about me? I wanna follow my heart. I wanna follow my dream. Not to do just what men say. There must be another way. Is he the man that I must take? And any other love forsake? Am I free to take another? Or am I just to be another? Hey, Richard, do you sing it the style of Bonnie Tyler? Oh, man, that would be awesome. That would be... Pump up the volume, pump up the volume. Yay, there we another dimension, so play close attention. Thank you, Andrew. When we are into another dimension, actually, anyone who's followed this channel knows I couldn't sing. Now I can sing. I don't know what happened. Well, I think I can sing all right. Anyway. Yes, if I want to do a Bonnie Tyler version, oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it? How think I'd go? Who wouldn't want to be the queen? Oh, yeah, anything like that. I mean, I'm not precious about my music, so if anyone wants to run off and do a rock style or anything like that, great. I'm so tempted to play another one. But it is late, isn't it? 10 past 10. Is anyone have a song? There's no request for it. Okay, alright. Can't find the music anyway. Right, okay, we shall leave that for now. So thank you very much, everyone. You have to put another song next week if you want one or not. And then hopefully we can get this show on the road, some proper singers and musicians. That'd be brilliant. Alright, so you people can go to bed now. It's a Sunday night, so thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Great, thank you. All the nice comments. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. Books on the way, songs, everything's happening. Everything's happening so much. I don't know what to do. Okay, so until next week. And oh yeah, got my Cameron Clifford's t-shirt on. Here we are. It's been summer. It's not as cold as it was, and I'm just waffling inanely now. So good night to everyone, and I'll leave it on so people continue commenting for a little bit longer, and I'll switch off about 10 minutes. All right. So good night, everyone. North Star. Peace. Which is Heather.